Welcome to Revive Ministries Podcast. It's September, it's 2025, and there's several things important about this month. Creating hope through action. It is World Suicide Prevention Day. Main theme. It's observed on September 10th of this year. When I think about also what Revive Ministries has done for this month, we have done for several years. One more day. It just felt very appropriate. It has been a theme for like I said for several years. It just fit on the emphasis when we're talking about World Suicide Prevention Day. Having been working in the field of mental health for almost 5 years, and also a survivor of suicide, I feel that this month is very, very important. There's a quote, an unknown quote, says, "Hope is not the absence of pain, but the presence of light." But on the other side, unfortunately, because of that, there are people who have completed suicide, and there's a quote that reads, "Grief is not a sign of weakness, nor a lack of faith. It's the price of love." And I feel that it rings very deep about those who are survivors of loved ones who have completed suicide. So this quote really, I think, speaks volumes on that. And also just, the idea of world suicide, we do lament about those who are no longer, those who are suffering, but we also try to find ways, like it says, I like their theme, creating hope through action. We'll touch on that more later on. And then I also want to mention that September is National Recovery Month, which focuses on emphasizing recovery from substance use and mental health challenges through improvement in health, home, community, and purpose. Their theme is restoring every aspect of life. And I think it's a beautiful approach. I can't tell you how many times environment can make a big difference. It doesn't solve the person who may be struggling with mental health challenges or substance use challenges, but a positive environment can do a lot. Can be just what someone may need. Today, I will be sharing my insight alone. Like I said prior, as I've been incorporating some solo videos on the episodes each month, at least attempting to. It's so this segment's way back. If you were listening, the first year I was doing this, Robert's Corner, I used to do kind of so many things on one topic. I'm bringing it back just for me to do a solo episode on each theme. So those who are not familiar, that is what this is. It's the same layout mostly, but I share my lived experience and my insight of what from the vantage point of my that I've experienced. It's especially hard, so I'm trying to lay down it's especially hard to get people to share, especially on some of these topics. So for me, I'm very passionate about this topic and several other topics. So I feel it gives a little bit balance and also a little structure. So I just want to share also, as we continue, that there is a disclaimer. If you are in crisis and you live in the States, 988 is the suicide crisis lifeline. However, there's several sites out there that has a lot of numbers, and I don't know how accurate they are, but on our website at www.reviveministryfl.com/crisis hotline, as it's read here, I've written down a lot of the numbers for a lot of people, a lot of countries around the world. So I would encourage you to check it out. Let me know through email. Some of them have been changed, or um, if some of them are no longer working. I don't want to give bad information, but however, I just want to, I also don't want to send you somewhere that I'm not sure if they are accurate to. So, or at least I can control and hopefully make whatever this list a little bit more accurate for those who are struggling out there. So your help, your input will be very helpful. So this info at reviveministryfl.com. You email me there and share, hey, this number has changed, or this number doesn't work anymore. Please let me know. So as we continue, talk about restoring, the back half about restoring every aspect of life, and the focal theme of Recovery Month. Um, this quote from Mark Twain really comes to mind. It says, "A man cannot be comfortable without his own approval." The classic saying I've said several times: if I'm not comfortable in my own skin, no matter where I go, it's never really enough. So, and I think, especially in recovery, those who are struggling with dual diagnosis, or with substance use and mental health challenges, can be very, very difficult. Um, one of the first questions is, why do you think it's hard for those struggling with substance use and mental health challenges to feel worthy to get better? Well, that's very interesting. When I think about worthy, it's very interesting in itself. Like, I ask myself, am I worth the time it takes to feel better? It's interesting to say that way because there's so much urgency. Sometimes things do take time, and sometimes the pressure can be outside driven. Um, and whenever I get to the point of should have statements, there were many times I felt, yeah, no, this is taking too long. I'm whatever age I am at the time. I shouldn't be dealing with this, and they're all justifiable. But like, it gets harder when we don't. At least from my experience, that I needed to be better yesterday, and this is inconvenient. That's not getting better now. Saying that in light, it does. It doesn't allow much room for failure or the struggles that recovery, whether it's in mental health or substance use challenges, can have. And also, it's very unkind. We can be our worst critic. And the question is, what is this criticism? I guess, what is the motivation behind this level of criticism? Is it really that you feel you haven't taken any steps, or is it more that you feel everyone thinks that way of you? So, external validation, I feel, has been a huge barrier. I'm just thinking of my own journey. Some of the biggest battles were internally, navigating, asking questions of whether I am worthy of healing, whether I am such a burden and this shouldn't have been, easy, or this shouldn't happen to me, or no one understands. And like, a lot of times these questions get dismissed and like get this kind of broad, oh, we do care about you. And it's not that that's a lie, but I do feel staying with the problem longer helped me understand myself, be comfortable eventually, but it wasn't all at once. And I think that was at least what helped me, but I wouldn't say it was helpful or felt helpful at the moment. And it's also ongoing. The question is, what have you personally seen help you and someone else close to you regarding this? Well, I shared what has helped me. What I also have seen working in the field, and also in my own journey, is, I call it a litmus test for myself. If you could turn off your phone, TV, and sit there and be content and calm in the silence. For me, that was very challenging. experiencing racing thoughts, experiencing hard things that have happened to me, and the mental health issues and challenges I was facing. Um, that didn't feel possible. Um, so what I've personally seen help was, um, I guess, simply put, staying with the problem longer. And not, if it's not working or something that doesn't seem reachable now, doesn't mean it's always going to be unreachable. I can't tell you how many times I I I settled for what people or what society may think a person who was struggling like me was capable to do. And I feel that really zaps a lot of confidence and motivation, especially when someone is confused or wondering why this is happening to them. Why is everyone against? And I just feel it's not that whatever they're saying is wrong or not justified. It's I sometimes and I want to wait to get to some of the questions I asked, but I just asked more clear questions that forced me to look at myself and where I was at. And I'm not saying it was. There's no simple or step one, step two. It's really question is: are you worth healing? Are you worth the time that it takes, the work that it takes to heal? Carl Jung, said it this way, and I like what he says, even though the verbiage sounds foreign for those who are not familiar with what he has, his contribution to um, Western psychology. He was the founding father with Freud and um, Adler. But he says it this way: he says, "Who looks outside dreams? Who looks inside awakes?" So I didn't put the comma in my emphasis. So who looks outside dreams? Who looks inside awakes? So it's leading toward the biggest battles are the ones internally. So I would say it this way: if I am comfortable who I am, if I'm comfortable in the silence, if I'm comfortable knowing I'm not perfect, it for me it has been very freeing. Has been very hard. But if I could be comfortable who I am and I don't have to depend on what everyone else says who I am, not to say I ignore advice or counsel, is am I enough? Am I enough or am I worth enough to get better? One thing I was also reading is a lot of athletes, if you're a professional athlete, one thing I've read and is that as you get older, it's not so much there's amazing athletes out there, whatever sports, professional athletes. But when you get older, one thing that is apparent is that the recovery time increases. It takes longer to recover from a lot of the wear and tear. And with that being said, it's a good illustration. But when you think about our mental health, are we given enough time? Now, time is a funny substance. Like idea, what is enough time? So, I guess when we think about healing on any, both physically or emotionally, the question only stems: how long will it take for it to heal? And another question that a lot of us don't really ask: am I worth the time for that healing? So I'll circle around and kind of share a little bit about how that, at least from my aspect, and how it has been for me briefly, of how that really was a barrier and also a point of freedom when I actually was able to answer that and say, yes, I am worth healing, but it didn't happen all at once. So the questions I asked myself, and in no particular order or not even the same wording, these things that came up while I was trying to think about this month as is important one for me is first question is when did having an illness and struggle become the mirror that defines our worth? So a lot of times, people would speculate it could be genes, it could be environment, it could be both. But when did that define having an illness or struggle become the test of worthiness? There's a lot of people who are struggling, who are born with illnesses. Do we just say that everyone who is born with a malady or a barrier, are they worth less? And those are the questions I had to ask myself. Second question: why are we willing to fight for the image the world sees and not how we see us? What I'm really trying to get at is we tend to not trust our gut. What's important to us? It's this, especially when it becomes more about how other people view me. So I feel good when people share, oh yeah, you're doing so much better. But what worries me, especially working in this field and also remembering my own self, there's a tendency to kind of want to stay there. We don't want to disappoint. We don't want to be inconvenient. So you may be going well, let's say with your substance use, you're clean, you're sober, or your mental health, you haven't had disruptive symptoms for some time, you haven't been in a hospital, it becomes like a badge of honor. But what if something happens? What if things get harder? Again, are you worth the time or the space to heal? Sometimes person has nothing. The person didn't fall off the bandwagon or just didn't comply to treatment. Sometimes just life happens. So the question becomes also, are you allowed to heal? And the last question, and not the last question, but one other question to just shape the kind of questions I asked myself. When did our needs and healing, when did our needs and healing matter less than other opinions of ourselves? Basically, maybe I word this: when did our needs and healing matter less than others' opinions of ourselves? So, in other words, when did our health, when did our needs, the things that may actually help us get better, become less of an important priority than the opinions of how others may see us? So, mental health, suicide prevention, there's so much cultural kind of barriers, there's so many different aspects to look at this. But I also remember that these questions, as hurtful they were, also when worked through, for me it was something very, very much freeing. I'll pause here and just share update Revive Ministries. Not much. We're still plowing through, but I just like whenever I have a solo episode like I am today, that I shed light on what is going on with Revive Ministries. Well, we are still doing the monthly theme. At the same time, I think I mentioned last month or the month before, sometimes life happens. Work was busy, things were stressful, things came up, and I may not have a lot of guests. And those who have been guests know that sometimes, unfortunately, I have to reschedule. And I'll say this to those who are listening: it does bother me when I have to reschedule, when I don't have every Thursday filled. But I want to keep doing this, and I plan to keep doing this. So the update is really, there's been adjustments. So including Robert's Corner, it gives a little bit of how you say, flexibility for the months that it's harder to get guests. I do encourage you, if you are listening and you want to share your story, just be part of the conversation, please reach out. You don't have to go through the platforms that I usually go through that you can connect, through, or you just simply email us, and we'll see where we can fit you in. But I just want to say, above all, appreciate each one who is listening. I also appreciate all the guests for sure. It is not easy, especially a world that seems to go faster and faster, to find time to have these conversations. I plan to do this for a long time, and I appreciate those who are coming along and sharing and being part of it, and those who are listening. I appreciate you too. Moving forward, we talked about recovery, and we talked about the recovery month, and the aspect that um, restoring every aspect of our lives, of life. And I shared just going deeper in my life, and going deeper, as Carl Jung says, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. I is asking deeper questions has helped me. Now, granted, everyone will, there's no finite way that you can say that would guarantee that it will work. You just, in a way, in a very simple way of saying, I just had to rediscover who I was. It's very interesting when you're sick with mental health issues, mental health challenges, or you attempted but failed at ending your life. Um, it it matters that you remind yourself of these questions and how they matter. So there's this a lot of times there's a lot of facts. So what are the facts? Well, when it comes to these kind of things, with confirmation bias and how disconnected and uncommunicative we can be, um, facts versus connecting to someone authentically, being interested in their opinions, whether you agree with them or not, just being there, I would say, has been a very, I say, supportive. And I got pieces of that from my family members, from friends, but it wasn't all wrapped in one. And I think, as much as I was wanting to be appreciated, I had to be equally accountable, and that balance helped me. Now, granted, this seems all inspiring. It wasn't when I was going through it. So I do encourage those who are struggling. The hardest three words to actually express to someone who you don't normally express things to is, I need help. Um, Moving forward, World Suicide Prevention Day is September 10th, 2025, and it's creating hope through action. How does hope become an action? Seneca says it this way: sometimes even to live is an act of courage. So sometimes there are times when those who are struggling may experience something similar. The sheer fact that you get out of your bed is an action towards hope. The sheer fact that you call, or you just walk outside the door, or whatever that mundane thing that normally hasn't been a big deal to do, that can be that action when it comes to that act towards hope. Another, Juliet Lewis says, the bravest thing I ever did was continue my life when I wanted to die. It's funny when, at least from my experience, when everyone could say that you're doing so well. What's wrong? You seem, you just have to get over it. It's not that, it makes people uncomfortable when someone who's struggling is in front of them. It makes them uncomfortable, so they'll say everything, anything to make them feel that they're doing well. And even if those things are genuine, I feel what Julie Lewis says. When you feel like you are nothing, you're worth nothing. No matter words, no matter who says anything at that point when you're feeling that low would convince you otherwise. So I think one thing that has been, at least my experience remembering, is not the enthusiasm, like I said in the quote recently last month. It's more the endurance. If I see someone there, even though it's inconvenient, because helping is inconvenient, if we're being honest, um, it shows indirectly that at least this person sees enough value to stick around. So another thing that was said by Ashi Duby. I'm sorry if I butcher your name, but I love your quote. It says, "Healing doesn't mean that damage never existed. It means that damage no longer controls our lives." Um, there's a concept in Japan, wabi sabi. The beauty and imperfections. There's a lot of that. So when we're thinking about hope and the action it may take, I want to share a couple more and segue into self-worth. One small crack does not mean you are broken. It means that you were put to the test and didn't fall apart. And another one from Nawa Sibian. The mountain you are carrying, you're only supposed to climb. So we are, dare I say, our hardest critics. And I feel there's being kind to yourself, those around you, can go a long way. It sounds very generic, but especially when we talk about self-worth, when we talk about some of these things regarding um, suicide, um, it's knowing that there is people that will um, be there. Now, if you are suicidal, again, I do encourage you to get help. If you do feel you have thoughts or a plan, I encourage you to call, again, Crisis Lifeline at 988 for the States. And again, check out if you are in another part of the world, see if any of the numbers in this are accurate. And if you are feeling or wanting to end or self-exit, I encourage you to get the help now. So moving on, I wanted to just touch upon self-worth because it is a barrier I've experienced countless times, which continues to be an ongoing development. I don't feel that I will ever feel completely worthy, and doesn't mean I'm not trying. I feel it's ongoing, which means it's a movement or an action. Ongoing, eh, it's striving. Sometimes we just need a heading. We may not know what that looks like. And sometimes the only action is to do whatever it takes to stay one more day. Call a friend, call a coworker, church member, faith-based, family group, families, mosque, temple, wherever you are at, your colleagues, or seek professional help if you feel you are at risk. I would say context and remember things, remembering people around you, even if you don't believe what they say, that you're a joy to be around, or that they really appreciate you, I encourage you to get the help. Even if you're emotionally right now don't feel like you're worth it, get someone to be around you today, this moment. Call someone. Um, World suicide. It's it's daunting how many people attempt suicide. My experience. Um, it it took decades to kind of feel comfortable enough to share, like, to process with myself. I know a lot of people will say something that, oh, that's selfish, or that, how could you do this? Um, but I would say from my experience, I can speak for others, that it's not that I wanted to do this because someone made me mad. I remember I wanted to do it. I wanted to end because of pain. I just wanted the pain to end. So this is where the rubber meets the road. And do I feel it was a wise thing? That's separate. I think now there's so much, but at that moment I felt that. So I don't. I feel um more community. We talked about community last month. More ability to create these safe spaces. More ability to share. One thing I learned, and I thought it was pretty interesting, that it's harder for us to harm each other when we know each other. Like, if I know someone well, what I'm trying to say is, it's harder for me to dehumanize someone if I really get to know them. And it reminds me of a father who has this atrocious artwork on their bookshelf, and people are like, "What is that eyesore?" And he's like, "That's my grandson's artwork. Their first artwork he gave to me, and it was special. It didn't matter that it probably wasn't going to be very much noticed from anyone else, but it mattered to him, because he knew where it came from. Remember where you came from, and also remember who you are. Sometimes I feel like what helped me was being reintroduced to myself, and being okay. Not like being okay and understanding limits, but also understanding value and worth. I think I said prior, that when did our needs and healing matter less than others' opinions of ourselves? When did it matter that people liked us, or agreed with us, or shared the same desires? Why did that matter more than us getting help? So, with that said, I want to end my final thoughts with a story. It's called The Story of the Stone. And I'm going to read verbatim. An elder monk was asked by a young troubled monk to reveal the great value of his life. The elder monk responded by saying his value was like a stone. He explained that the stone's value depends entirely on it's placed, entirely on where it is placed. It's worth little at the market, more in a museum, and even more in the hands of an art collector. Similarly, a person's value is determined by the environment and the people they place themselves around. So, like I said, I don't want to say that external validation is not bad. We are kind of wired to kind of want to be accepted, but choose who that external environment is wisely, is what I'm trying to say. If people do not if if you think about the people around you, and if good things happen around you in the environment you're in right now, and if you feel that none of them will really be happy for any good things, you may not be in the right environment. You may be in the market. So it's easier said than done, but I would say my final thought when it comes to this very important month is be when you are thinking and understanding and get to know who you are, you have a better chance of recognizing whether you are in the market, whether you are in the museum, or whether you're around people who really truly value you. And that in itself, I think, is one of the most powerful things when it comes to this topic. It's not the only thing, but it's important that when we know ourselves, we also know what is important and why we're important. I just want to say, remember to stay updated with Revive Ministry various platforms. ReviveMinistryFL.com is our website. I'll leave you with this. This is goodbye. And I'll leave you with this last quote. And it reminds us to act or get help if you need it. Live for you, not everyone else. You're worth getting better. It's from Wayne Dyer. He says, people who want the most approval get the least. People who need the approval the least get